Caught on camera, a Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer presses a gun to a man's head and threatens to kill him.
This happened in March when officers tried to arrest James Yarborough after he ran from police. It's what happened when they caught up to him that has our investigative reporter Nick Oxner asking some questions.
I'll get him. I'll catch that guy.
CMPD officers chased James Yarborough for about 4 minutes after he took off running from a traffic stop last March. It took multiple officers to catch him. This is what happened when they did.
Stop! I will kill you.
That's a gun on the left side of the screen, pressed to Yarborough's head, and an officer threatening to kill him.
I will kill you.
The only thing I did wrong that day was run. That is the only thing I did wrong that day.
Do you regret doing that?
Yes. I regret running.
Stop! Hey! Hey! Come here!
Police stopped a car Yarborough was a passenger in because they say it was connected to a string of larcenies. Yarborough, who's been convicted 3 different times on federal firearms charges, says he ran because he knew the driver of the car had a gun. Something he says he didn't want to be pinned on him.
Put your hand behind your back!
But he says he wasn't expecting the force officers used when they finally caught him.
That moment felt like, it felt like it might have been my last day.
Yarborough and the officers struggled for another 3 minutes after the gun was put to his head. The video shows officers punching and elbowing him in an effort to get his hands behind his back until, at one point, an officer points out Yarborough can't move because of the 4 men on top of him.
Guys, Dunham, you have to come up so he can get it back there. He's not going anywhere.
That has all of the features of excessive use of force.
We showed the video to attorney Jake Sussman, who represents clients in police brutality cases. Sussman said this body cam video would make for a compelling case in court that officers used excessive force.
I think you show that to 12 people on the street, they would certainly think that there was a problem. It certainly seems like that was an unreasonable use of force.
You and the department stand behind Officer Dunham's behavior in that video.
We do.
But the police say otherwise. Major Stella Patterson heads the department's internal affairs unit. She says the officers in the video didn't do anything wrong.
When you look completely at the totality of the circumstances, you have to ask yourself, was that reasonable in that situation? And based on everything, it was reasonable.
It's reasonable for a police officer to take his pistol and put it up against the temple of someone's head and say that they'll kill that person?
Depends on the situation. You have to look at it in totality.
When you went to the police academy, were you taught that it's appropriate or okay to press your gun up against someone's head and say, I will kill you?
I don't know that we were taught to press the gun up against somebody's head. We were taught that you could point the weapon, and we see that Mr. Officer Dunham does that in the video.
That's hard to swallow. People die as a result of that. People are manhandled as a result of that. And that is, whether that's training, whether that's culture within the department, it's terrifying.
What would you say to those police officers who were on the ground with you that day?
I don't know what I'll say to him. I really don't.
Would you say what happened to you was justice?
No.
What would you call that?
A beating.
There you go.
Now, police charge Yarborough with resisting arrest, assault on a police officer, as well as a weapons charge. All 3 of those charges were dismissed by the district attorney's office, they say, for lack of evidence. Guys, back to you.
All right, Nick, thank you. Right now on WBTV.com, we've posted much more of that story online, including the full body cam videos from 2 different officers and more details on CMPD's explanation for why they say this incident was by the book.
You can find our prior investigations on our website under the Investigations tab. Just head right now to WBTV.com. New at 6 o'clock, a WBTV investigation is getting results tonight as Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Chief Kerr Putney addresses a disturbing video we first told you about Monday. The video shows a CMPD officer pressing a gun to a man's head and threatening to kill him. Previously, the department defended their actions, but that changed today. Investigative reporter Nick Oxter was first to break this story. So, Nick, is the chief backtracking now?
Yeah, Maureen, Chief Putney said he simply cannot defend Officer John Dunham's decision to press his gun to James Yarborough's head and threaten to kill him. He says that's not what officers are taught to do, and it doesn't help ease tense situations.
What I'm not here to do is defend everything that was done, because I'm not going to defend the indefensible.
Chief Kerr Putney spoke with reporters Thursday afternoon about this video showing the violent arrest of James Yarborough.
I will kill you.
Who ran from police during a traffic stop.
I'm not going to defend some of the language because we do have policies that restrict what can be said and in what manner, nor am I going to defend all of the tactics used, especially on behalf of Officer Dunham.
But Putney's words Thursday were different from what a CMPD major told us less than a week earlier in our investigation that first uncovered this video on Monday.
When you went to the police academy, were you taught that it's appropriate or okay to press your gun up against someone's head and say, "I will kill you"?
I don't know that we were taught to press the gun up against somebody's head. We were taught that you could point the weapon, and we see that Mr. Officer Dunham does that in the video.
Chief, you stood up here and said you cannot defend the actions of Officer Dunham, some of those actions in that video.
I cannot defend language. I cannot defend putting a gun to somebody's head in that situation. Yes.
And yet Major Patterson, in our interview and our story on Monday, did defend that. So was Major Patterson wrong to defend that in our interview on Monday?
What I saw from Major Patterson is the use of force was legally justified. She was very clear in that. She was very clear in it. Review it. I already have. And I can tell you that nobody's defending putting a gun to somebody's head in that particular situation.
You and the department stand behind Officer Dunham's behavior in that video.
We do.
The officer who incorrectly used his gun left CMPD a month after the incident and was never disciplined. Putney said the situation uncovered by WBTV will be a learning experience.
What we're going to do as an organization is apply the law and try to achieve a higher standard than even the law allows.
Stop resisting. I'm not.
Now, this story came to light because we were able to obtain a copy of police body cam video showing the officer's actions. But under a new law that took in effect, it is not a public record. Now, because of that law, Maureen, CMPD announced today it has petitioned a Superior Court judge for permission to release that video to the public.
So have there been any changes to that law since it was implemented late last year?
As a matter of fact, the North Carolina House of Representatives voted to tweak that law just today, basically making changes that make it easier for law enforcement agencies to share video with other agencies and with government managers and councils. However, the changes approved today still do not make it easier, Maureen, for police to share this body cam video with the public.
Very interesting to see what else happens with this story, Nick. Thank you.
Well, and there are some new developments just in on this story. Mayor Jennifer Roberts released a statement on the video just a short time ago, and it reads in part, "No one can justify pressing a gun to the head of one of our unarmed citizens and threatening to kill them. I agree with Chief Putney's statement today that the officer's actions were indefensible. This incident was both preventable and unacceptable." Again, a statement just in from Mayor Jennifer Roberts.
A Lancaster County Sheriff's deputy opened fire on a suspect early last month, nearly striking the man as he was surrendering a gun to another deputy.
The sheriff's office tried to pass this off as an accident. That is until a whistleblower inside the department decided to speak out. Now our investigative reporter Nick Ochsner is piecing together what happened.
Dispatch, 101 shots fired.
Lancaster County Sheriff's deputies were called to a suicidal man trying to break into a gun safe in early October. This police report says a sergeant had convinced the man to surrender his rifle, which wasn't loaded and had been rendered safe, through his kitchen window, when another deputy saw the barrel of the rifle and fired her weapon, nearly striking both the suicidal man and the sergeant.
It was miscommunication between the officer that was talking to the suspect and the officer that fired the shot. Something that should have never happened.
This man was working inside the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office when the shooting happened. He called On Your Side Investigates with concerns about how the case was being handled. In her report, the deputy who shot her gun wrote that she fired her weapon because she saw another gun and thought the sergeant's life was in danger. Until now, the public hasn't seen a copy of the report. The sheriff didn't release a statement about the shooting. But if they had, they would have seen write-ups from senior department supervisors calling the shooting an accidental discharge.
When they put in a report that it's an accidental shooting, in your opinion, is that correct?
Absolutely not. That's falsifying a document.
Was the shooting on October 2nd an accidental or intentional shooting?
It was an intentional shooting. It was not an accidental shooting.
Okay, if it was not an accidental shooting, then why did your deputies write that?
The night of the shooting, it was initially believed to be accidental.
So your investigators didn't think to interview the deputy on the scene?
No, sir. Not that night.
Doug Barfield is an attorney for the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office. He provided us a copy of this report from an internal review of the shooting that finds a deputy who fired her weapon did so intentionally because she thought there was a threat. but that was never updated in the case file. Were you transparent about the shooting?
We are transparent, and we provide
Were you transparent about this shooting?
Yes, sir.
You stand behind how your department investigated this and handled this situation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have a former deputy in this department on camera telling us that your office tried to cover this shooting up.
No, there was absolutely no intention or effort or steps taken to cover anything up.
Why did you decide to blow the whistle?
I became a law enforcement officer to do the right thing, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Reporting in Lancaster County, Nick Oxner, WBTV, on your side.
And we want to know, do you have something you want us to investigate? If so, call our tip line. The number is there on your screen, 704-374-3511.
Tonight, a whistleblower tells us about the CMPD Academy leading up to a cadet's death this summer.
Someone had brought up a concern that we train with no hydration.
Find out why former classmate says Jeremy Mosley's death could have been avoided.
And a local deputy dies at his daughter's wedding in Costa Rica minutes after dancing with her. What his colleagues want you to know about his life.
This broadcast is sponsored by Subaru South Boulevard and Subaru Concord. WBTV, on your side. WBTV News starts right now.
Surprising new details coming to light tonight in the death of a Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department recruit. It's good to have you here at 6 o'clock. I'm Maureen O'Boyle.
And I'm Paul Cameron. This is a story you'll only see here on WBTV. A former classmate of CMPD recruit Jeremy Mosley is talking about conditions within the police academy. Mosley collapsed and died in July while doing physical training. He tells investigative reporter Nick Oxter instructors ignored warnings that could have prevented Mosley's death. Nick?
Yeah, Paul, the whistleblower tells me Mosley had already succumbed to the high heat and humidity once during PT the week before. We talked with the former classmate in the days following Mosley's death, before the North Carolina Department of Labor issued its findings supporting claims CMPD failed to protect cadets from the heat. Rescue crews raced to the CMPD training facility just after 8:30 the morning of July 5th.
All the companies responding to Charlton Road. Their medic has in his own Bubba on the big hill.
Radio traffic from the response shows crews spent minutes trying to figure out where Cadet Jeremy Mosley lay dying, having passed out minutes before from heat exhaustion.
11:46, you got CPR in progress.
Mosley was rushed to the hospital but died. His autopsy says he simply overheated. His core temperature still nearly 106 degrees 2 hours after his death.
Do you think that your classmate had to die?
No. Not at all.
This man trained with Mosley as a fellow CMPD recruit. He asked we take steps to protect his identity because he fears retaliation for speaking out about the warning signs he says CMPD instructors ignored in the days before Mosley's death.
He fell out last week and was given talking to about his fitness level.
Both our whistleblower and Mosley's parents say he was among a group of cadets reprimanded during the first week of training for not being able to complete an hours-long workout outside in the heat.
Almost prophetically, he had stated that maybe I just don't have the heart for this. The next training day, he's no longer with us.
Were the people at the training academy aware of the concerns that you and your classmates had?
Someone had brought up a concern that we train with no hydration. We train with no medical kits on site.
But this recruit says instructors at the academy ignored their warnings just days before Mosley died.
We were told that their regiment is their regiment and we will conform to it.
If something's not changed, will this happen again?
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
CMPD announced just last week it will now provide cadets access to water during training in response to a fine from the North Carolina Department of Labor. In a statement announcing the Department of Labor's actions, CMPD said instructors will also be retrained in recognizing heat exhaustion.
I do think that there should be safety protocols in place to mitigate risk.
Well, so far, CMPD has yet to provide any of the documents related to Mosley's death that we've requested as part of this investigation. They also have yet to respond to our request for an interview. We still have questions about the conditions at the academy that led to Mosley's death, including why there wasn't water available for recruits during training. You can bet we'll continue pushing for answers until someone at CMPD gives us an explanation on camera. Guys, back to you.
For law enforcement officers, they have a tough job to do, risking their lives to keep our community safe. But an on-your-side investigation has found there's a double standard for law enforcement officers accused of some conduct in Cleveland County.
Investigative reporter Nick Oxner talks with one woman who says she faced challenges getting protection from her then husband because he is a state trooper. We've learned he may not be the only one.
In North Carolina, if you fear your spouse or partner will cause you immediate harm, you can go to a magistrate and get an emergency protective order. It's good until the next session of district court and is designed to protect those living in fear of injury or harm. A protective order isn't a criminal charge and doesn't require a police investigation. But that's what two Cleveland County judicial officials told a judge was required for one woman to get an emergency protective order last year because her then husband was a state trooper. We trust police to keep us safe and the court system to uphold the law, but try to seek a protective order from a law enforcement officer in Cleveland County and the system may not help you.
I don't want to sound like we give special treatment to law enforcement officers. However, I think we owe them a duty to conduct a full investigation.
That's Cleveland County Assistant District Attorney Sally Kirby Turner testifying at a court hearing for Jennifer Friedel. Friedel sought help from Kirby Turner and a local magistrate last year to get an emergency protective order from her then husband, who's a state trooper.
He very much worried me, and even when I reached out for help, no one would help.
Friedel called On Your Side Investigates, frustrated with a system she says kept her from getting the help she needed. She and her attorney say she took these pictures, which show a bruised arm, to the magistrate's office one night seeking an emergency protective order. She says the bruises were from her husband. She wanted a protective order, among other things, from the magistrate that night, but walked away with nothing.
Do you think the criminal justice system covered up for your husband?
Absolutely, I do.
Don't take Friedel's word for it. The magistrate told a judge it was her office's protocol to not issue warrants or protective orders against law enforcement officers.
In this situation, because it was involving a law enforcement officer, there was a little bit more to it than just a normal 50B situation.
I mean, if we look at the Chapter 50B statute, there's no exception there for law enforcement.
Melanie Crenshaw is a board-certified family law attorney in Greensboro who's not involved in this case. We played her excerpts from the court's testimony of the assistant DA and magistrate outlining how they handle protective orders for law enforcement.
We do not get involved usually as far as issuing charges if a law enforcement officer is involved without law enforcement coming in and doing a report and doing an investigation.
What it sounds like what these court officers are saying is their policy is not how the law is designed to be.
It's not my understanding of the law, and I don't think it's the way that we would practice here in Guilford County.
The next day, a judge did issue a protective order against Friedel's husband and even required his service weapon be taken from him. And the chief district court judge in Cleveland County, who oversees magistrates, told On Your Side Investigates that refusing to issue a protective order simply because it involved a law enforcement officer would violate state law.
It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's scary because you don't know their relationship with him. You don't want to. I never wanted to call the police on my husband. I never wanted my husband to be quote unquote in trouble. I wanted help for him and I wanted help for our marriage.
The magistrate who refused to issue the protective order did not respond to multiple calls and emails seeking comment. The assistant district attorney in this matter says she stands by her testimony in court. Guys, back to you.
Nick, thank you. Friedel's husband remains in his job as a state trooper and has not been charged with any criminal wrongdoing. His attorney issued a statement on his behalf to WBTV this afternoon saying, quote, her case was fully vetted. Both parties filed domestic violence actions, which both parties later dismissed. Ms. Friedel appeared before the magistrate for a civil restraining order stating her chief desire was to seek custody. This is an abuse of the system and does harm to domestic violence victims across the state. For more on this story, head to our website. Just go to WBTV.com.